everyone, welcome back to Lesson 15 of 제니퍼의Actual speaking. My name is Jennifer Clyde. Thank you so much for joining me today. Well, as I did mention, now it's time for Lesson 15 and we'll be focusing on talking about making appointments or even reservations or plans. Now let me tell you the difference between appointments, reservations, and plans to begin with. For example, when do you make a reservation? Usually in American English, people make reservations at restaurants, flights on airplanes, even at the theater, right? Hotels, you can make reservations. Usually, you are reserving a seat or a place to stay. Now, what about appointments? What is the difference? People make appointments with someone. It's usually in one-on-one interaction situations. For example, you may go to see the doctor. That's right. You're going to see the doctor one-on-one, 1대1이죠. So you make appointments at the doctor's office or the dentist's. You would even make an appointment with a lawyer, okay? Usually for some kind of consultation. You can even make an appointment with your accountant. What about plans? When do you make a plan? A plan usually make with friends or even family, just to meet up with them and perhaps have dinner, go to the movies, just to spend time with them. So please do keep in mind the differences between making a reservation, making an appointment, and making plans with somebody, okay? All right, that is our topic for the day. Let's talk about it. Let's begin. Are you ready to get started? Let's begin with our warm-up segment. Of course, time for us to take a look at the 5 W's and how. All right, now, from this lesson on, I am going to give you a rough outline or questions as to what you can talk about with the 5 W's and how. Now, up until now, I've given you details, but now, for example, let's take a look at the first W, which is who. Now, who do you usually have to make an appointment to meet, okay? So think about these situations. These are different situations you could possibly think about and talk about when you are having a conversation or when you are doing an interview related to this topic. Today we are, of course, talking about making appointments or making reservations or making plans with somebody. So, as I did mention, now there is a difference between appointment, reservation, and plans. Focus on appointments. So who do you usually have to make an appointment to meet? For example, doctors, lawyers, accountants, as I did mention. Now, who do you most often find difficult to meet without making an appointment? Okay? If you don't make an appointment in advance, who is difficult to meet? Think about these situations. What else? Who was the last person you met? Now, this was last person, the very last person you met after scheduling an appointment, okay? So, was it a doctor? Was it the dentist? Think about who that person was. And what do you think about booking things in advance? In advance means beforehand, right? 미리라는 말인데요. Here, what do you think about booking things in advance? Book here in this case is what? Not the book we read, but we're talking about book as in verb, okay? Now, as a verb, to book means to reserve. 예약하다라는 뜻이 되는 거죠, okay? But there is a slight difference between book and reserve. When you book something, you usually confirm it and you usually pay for something. So if it's confirmed and paid, you would say that you booked something. When you reserve something, you basically call someone, ask them for an availability, and you set a date or time to do something, but you may leave a small deposit or no deposit at all. So there is a slight difference, book and reserve. But basically they're used in many similar situations. So what do you think about booking things in advance? Is it convenient? I sure think it's convenient. Okay, moving on. What do you think are the pros and cons of making reservations and appointments? You all know what pros and cons is, right? Now, they always go together. Pros and cons, pros and cons. Now, keep in mind that they are always used in the plural form with the S. It's never pro and con, it's always pros and cons. We're talking about the advantages and disadvantages. Pros comes from Latin meaning for, okay? For, and also cons meaning against, okay? Contra, which means against. So we're talking about the good things and the bad things, the advantages and the disadvantages, the pros and the cons. So simply put, what do you think are the good things and the bad things of making reservations and appointments? You can talk about that. Okay, what else? What did you do when you made a reservation or appointment but had to wait long? Did you get angry? What did you do? And what did they do? Did they apologize to you? What happened when they kept you waiting a long time even when you had a reservation or appointment to meet them? Okay, moving on. When do you make reservations? I would say I usually make reservations when I go to restaurants because especially when I go to restaurants that I really like to go to, I know which table I want to sit at. So I usually call them in advance, maybe a week in advance or at least 2 days in advance, and I ask for that specific table by the window, by the bar, for example. So you can make reservations at restaurants, hotels, or even airplanes. Remember, you make reservations where? Yeah, for a place or a seat. So these places. Now, where? Which places or occasions must you make an appointment or reservation? Now, the must here is, of course, in capital letters because I want to stress it, okay? So, where? Which places do you have to? Must you make an appointment or reservation? Moving on to where did you have to wait? Even when you made an appointment. So you had an appointment, but you had to wait 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. Talk about where it was, okay? Moving on. Why do you prefer to make reservations? You can talk about why you make reservations. Like me, I told you when I go to a certain restaurant because I want to sit at the table that I like most at the restaurant. So talk about your reasons as to why you prefer to make reservations. Now, why don't you like to make reservations? You can also talk about that, right? Could be a hassle, could be a lot of trouble, so you don't like to make reservations. Talk about why you do not like to make reservations. Now, how early do you call to reserve a seat or a table? Remember, making reservations always relates to a seat or a place. A table is also a seat, right? So perhaps you want a seat on an airplane. Then you could reserve a flight or flight tickets. You could reserve get-togethers. Not exactly a get-together, but you could make reservations at a place for get-togethers. Now here in this case, we're talking about a get-together. 만남이란 뜻입니다. Not to get together. Remember, there's a hyphen here, so the stress should go where? Get together. Get together. So you can make plans. Reserve a place or a table for get-togethers. Also when planning a celebration like an anniversary, a birthday, a very special day. Okay, let's move on. Now, how early do you start making arrangements? As I mentioned, when I want to go to a restaurant, my favorite restaurant, I at least call them a week in advance. Or if it's for a special celebration, right, you can call them a month in advance. Okay, sure. Let's take a look at one last one. How many days in advance do you make reservations for restaurants, for flights, for hotels, or even concerts, or even something that's going on at a theater? Be more specific, okay? All right, we are done brainstorming. Do the details on your own, and let's move on to today's actual talk. Listen carefully.
Rachel, when you go to restaurants, do you like to make a reservation in advance or do you just show up?
I always make reservations. It's because I don't like to wait in line at all, especially when I'm hungry. So I'm the type of person that loves to plan. I make appointments for everything, even up to when I'm going to check my email. I make reservations on, whether I want to make a meeting with a professor or a client or things like that. So I'm the type of person that will always make reservations. But what about you,
I
Peter?
see.
Do you like to make reservations?
I live a little bit more by the seat of my pants.
Oh, okay.
I like to do things at the spur of the moment, so I often don't make reservations in advance. I'll love to just show up at a restaurant and see if there's an opening. If there
Okay.
isn't, I can always walk down the street or wait a little while.
So you go to the next restaurant if the wait is way too long, for example. Yeah.
Well, for something special, for really good food, I'll wait.
Okay.
Up to an hour, hour and a half, I'm okay with it as long as I can
Wow.
have a drink at the bar and
That's true.
chat with my friends.
Yeah. How long have you ever waited for a table at a restaurant?
I don't think I've waited much more than an hour and a half, but I will, move on if I have to wait too long,
That's true.
depending on how hungry I am.
Yeah.
But I also make appointments or reservations when there's some sort of special occasion. Like recently, it was our anniversary.
Oh, okay.
So, we made an appointment in advance and went to our special restaurant.
Right. You don't want to keep your wife waiting. If it's
No.
your anniversary, you want to celebrate it
Or
on
be
time.
stuck in line.
That's true. Do you make reservations for, say, hair appointments or doctor's appointments and things like that?
Well, of course, with doctors, you have to. You don't really have a choice.
But I found that sometimes, even when I make appointments for doctor's appointments, I still have to wait a little bit. Sometimes when they're running behind, as you can tell, I don't really like to wait in
Yeah.
line. I'm a little bit impatient.
Actually, I was thinking we should get some coffee soon. Do you have time this Thursday?
Making an appointment. How about next week? Is that
Okay,
better?
next week's fine. Let's meet at the cafe at the time we, specify. and-
Yeah, sure.
That sounds good.
Did you enjoy the conversation? Today's actual talk between Peter and Rachel. Now, I can tell that Peter, he's quite patient compared to Rachel because Rachel said herself that she is very impatient. She hates to wait. They both hate to wait in line, but Peter said usually when he goes to a restaurant, he just goes. He goes whenever he feels like going, but he does make reservations for very special occasions. Now, what about Rachel? She said she always makes appointments and always makes reservations. All right, let's take a look together. Now, Peter said, Rachel, when you go to restaurants, we're talking about going to restaurants, do you like to make a reservation in advance or do you just show up? Okay, so we're talking about making a reservation in advance or just showing up. Now, we all know making a reservation in advance, that's easy, but what does to show up mean? Show up. Show up means to appear. Just go without making a reservation. For example, you didn't plan to meet a friend, but say, for example, your friend John, he just came without calling you, without letting you know. You can say John just showed up, okay? So he's asking, do you like to make reservations or not, simply put? Now, Rachel said, I always make reservations. She says it's because I don't like to wait in line at all. Now, we're talking about something negative. I don't like to do something at all. 전혀 무언 못하는 게 싫다. Okay, she hates it. So she says, I don't like to wait in line. Now, this is important. When you say that you are waiting in line, you're waiting for your turn, you always say wait in line. Not wait online, not wait at line, but always wait in line. You are part of the line that you are standing in, okay? Now she says, especially when I'm hungry. Yeah, I'm like that too. When I'm hungry, I cannot wait. And she says, I'm the type of person that loves to plan. So she makes it a rule. She always plans things in advance, okay? She makes reservations and appointments. She is the type of person that loves to plan. She always plans. She says, I make appointments for blah, 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 but for everything. For everything. So I'm the type of person that will always, she stresses, that's why once again it's in capital letters, stressing, always make reservations. And then she asks Peter, do you like to make reservations? What did he say? He says, I live a little bit more by the seat of my pants. Let's take a look at this. To live, or basically by the seat, okay, of one's pants. What does that mean? By the seat of one's pants? Does it have to do with the pants, 바지? Basically, by the seat of one's pants means without preparation. So once again, I live a little bit more. He's comparing himself to Rachel. By the seat of my pants, meaning, well, compared to you, I don't really plan things in advance. I don't really prepare things in advance. And then he explains, I like to do things at the spur of the moment. This also means to do things without planning. For example, when you're walking down the street and you see this restaurant and you look at it and you say, I didn't know this restaurant was here, but suddenly, instantly, for some reason, you want to go in and eat there. Right? Then that means, well, I ate at the restaurant or I walked into the restaurant. I do things at the spur of the moment, meaning you felt like it just instantly and you did it just because you felt like it. So once again, by the seat of my pants and at the spur of the moment, it means to do something without preparation. So I often don't make reservations in advance. He's explaining to us he does not make reservations in advance. I love to just show up at a restaurant. Remember, show up means, right, just to appear at a restaurant and see if there is an opening. Now, an opening is what? When you open something, you're opening something and closing something. 열고 닫다, right? Open and close. But we're talking about an opening as a noun. An opening means that something is unoccupied. It is available. So he's saying, if there is an opening, I would just walk in. If they have a table, I would walk in. If they have space for me, I would walk in. If there isn't, I can always walk down the street, continue walking, or wait a little while. All right. Okay, now Rachel says, so you go to the next restaurant if the wait is way too long. She's asking him to make sure that she understood correctly. Way too long. Now, long is long as we know. Too long is a little bit too long. Way too long. You are distressing that the long wait or the wait is too long. It's way too long. He says, well, for something special, for really good food, I'll wait up to an hour and a half. Up to meaning to that point. Since he said an hour and a half, he will wait an hour and a half, but no longer than that. That is his maximum limit. Up to an hour, which means you will not wait more than an hour. Up to an hour and a half, meaning you will not wait more than an hour and a half. Here, this expression here, the is often omitted, okay? So you can also say an hour and a half. You will listen to that or hear that in the actual talk. Moving on, I'm okay with it as long as I can have a drink at the bar and chat with my friends. So he's saying even if I have to wait, if I can have a drink with my friends, that's fine. Now, Rachel asks, how long have you ever waited for at a table? Okay, have you ever waited for a table at a restaurant? He says, I don't think I've waited much more than an hour and a half. Why? Because he usually says he does not wait longer than an hour and a half. But I will move on, meaning continue on, move on, perhaps go to a different place if I have to wait too long, depending on how hungry I am. Depending on how hungry I am, he said. So he's saying, if I am very hungry, I will not wait. If I'm not that hungry, perhaps I'll wait a little more. Okay? Moving on. Now, he says, but I also make appointments or reservations when there is some sort of special occasion. So in these occasions, he does make appointments or reservations. Recently, it was our anniversary, wedding anniversary, right? Him and his wife. So we made an appointment in advance. Here we have, in advance, okay? And went to our special restaurant. Now, Rachel says, right, you don't want to keep your wife waiting. Keep someone waiting. 누구를 기다리게 하다. 오래 기다리게 하다란 말이죠. So it's their wedding anniversary. You don't want your wife to wait long because she'll be mad at you and she'll nag at you. Moving on. If it's your anniversary, you want to celebrate it on time, okay? Right exactly when it should be celebrated. All right, let's move on. And Peter says, or be stuck in line, meaning, you don't want to keep your wife waiting or be stuck in line, meaning waiting in line for a long time. Now, Rachel says that's true. Do you make reservations for, say, hair appointments or doctor's appointments and things like that? And he says, of course, with doctors, you have to. And he explains you don't really have a choice. Meaning, when you go to see a doctor, you have to make an appointment. If not, you can wait up to 3-4 hours, right? Okay, moving on. Now, she says, but I found that sometimes. I felt that sometimes. She's talking about her experience. Even when I make appointments at the doctor's, I still have to wait a little bit. Sometimes when they're running behind. Now, to run behind. To run is to run. Behind means after someone or behind someone. Now, this idiomatic expression, to run behind, means to run late or to be late. 늦는다라는 말이에요. So, when they're running behind, they may have 5 patients, but then again, each patient takes a long time, so that's right, they could run behind. And she says, as you can tell, I don't really like to wait in line. She doesn't like to wait in line, and she says, I'm a little bit impatient. So she's saying that she is unable to wait. She is unwilling to wait. 참을성이 없다라고 이야기를 하는 거죠. I'm impatient. 저요? 참을성이 전혀 없어요. Okay? 참을성이 있다. 반대로 in 빼시면 돼요. You can say, I'm a patient person. I'm patient. Okay, moving on. We do have a little more left. I was thinking we should get some coffee soon. And he asks, do you have time this Thursday? And what did Rachel say? Make it an appointment. And here I do want to point out, they were talking about appointments over and over and over again. That is why Rachel said appointment. But you may wonder, they're talking about making plans to get together, but why did she say appointment? Okay, that is once again because they were talking about appointments, but if you want to say it correctly, you should say, let's make it a plan. 그렇게 하자. Let's make it a plan. How about next week? Okay, next week's fine. Let's meet at the cafe at the time we specify. Specify meaning the time we decide to meet. Okay, so that brings us to an end to today's actual talk. Let's take a listen to it one more time.
Rachel, when you go to restaurants, do you like to make a reservation in advance or do you just show up?
I always make reservations. It's because I don't like to wait in line at all, especially when I'm hungry. So I'm the type of person that loves to plan. I make appointments for everything, even up to when I'm going to check my email. I make reservations on, whether I want to make a meeting with a professor or a client or things like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm the type of person that will always make reservations. But what about you, Peter? Do you like to make reservations?
I live a little bit more by the seat of my pants.
Oh, okay.
I like to do things at the spur of the moment, so I often don't make reservations in advance. I'll love to just show up at a restaurant and see if there's an opening. Okay. If there isn't, I can always walk down the street or wait a little while.
So you go to the next restaurant if the wait is way too long, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, for something special, for really good food, I'll wait.
Okay.
Up to an hour, hour and a half, I'm okay with it as long as I can have a drink at the bar and
That's true.
Chat with my friends.
Yeah. How long have you ever waited for a table at a restaurant?
I don't think I've waited much more than an hour and a half, but I will, move on if I have to wait too long,
That's true.
depending on how hungry I am.
Yeah.
But I also make appointments or reservations when there's some sort of special occasion. Like recently, it was our anniversary.
Oh, okay.
So, we made an appointment in advance and went to our special restaurant.
Right. You don't want to keep your wife waiting. If
No.
it's your anniversary, you want to celebrate it
Or
on
be
time.
stuck in line.
That's true. Do you make reservations for, say, hair appointments or doctor's appointments and things like that?
Well, of course, with doctors, you have to. You don't really have a choice.
But I found that sometimes, even when I make appointments for doctor's appointments, I still have to wait a little bit. Sometimes when they're running behind, as you can tell, I don't really like to wait in line. I'm a little bit impatient.
Actually, I was thinking we should get some coffee soon. Do you have time this Thursday?
Making an appointment. How about next week? Is that better?
Okay, next week's fine. Let's meet at the cafe at the time we, specify.
Yeah, sure.
That sounds good.
All right, everyone, hope you listened carefully to the actual talk one more time and made use of the subtitles. Now it's time for us to check out some actual talk expressions. Let's take a look at talking about making reservations or appointments, talking about your experiences, but focus on this. You can say you booked tickets, meaning you bought the tickets, right? Or you reserved tickets. I booked 2 tickets for someone's concert. Okay, you booked tickets for a concert. I booked 2 tickets for Ennio Morricone's June concert. Another one, I made a dentist appointment for and then time, but I had to wait an hour. 그랬지만 기다려야 했습니다. Right? Now keep in mind, you book tickets for something. You can also make an appointment for a certain time. Okay, moving on. I booked 2 seats on the morning flight to Busan. Now, you book seats. You book seats on a flight to somewhere. Okay, moving on. I have a 10 o'clock appointment with someone. So keep this in mind. For, and then for time, and then on a flight. And finally, I have a 10 o'clock appointment with somebody. Okay? Now, moving on. You're asking for openings, availabilities. If it's possible for you to make a reservation or an appointment, let's see. Would it be possible to schedule? Would it be possible to arrange a meeting with Mr. Kim this Friday? Always remember, when you are making a reservation or an appointment to see someone, you would say with so-and-so. Moving on to another one. I'm calling to see. You're making a phone call and you are calling to ask. I'm calling to see if the professor, Dr. Lee, is available on Tuesday afternoon. On Tuesday afternoon, on a certain day. When is Dr. Kim free this coming Thursday? Free in this case is another word for available, open. When is Dr. Kim open this Thursday? When is Dr. Kim available this Thursday? Or when is Dr. Kim free this coming Thursday? Got it? Moving on. Now, making reservations. You can say, I'd like to book a table, for example, at a restaurant. I'd like to book a flight. I'd like to book 2 seats for May 10th. Now, if you say seats, it can be anywhere. It can be at a theater. It can be at a restaurant. It can be seats on a flight as well. So when you want to make a reservation, keep this pattern in mind. You call and you say, I would like to book, I would like to reserve a table, reserve a flight, reserve a seat, 10 seats, some, and then for so-and-so. Moving on to, are there any window seats near the emergency exits? This is what I usually ask when I want to fly somewhere. So I call the flight company and I say, do you have any window seats near the emergency exits? Because I like leg space. There's a lot of leg space, usually where the emergency exits are. So this is what I do. When I want to book or reserve a flight to somewhere, I usually say, are there any window seats? Are there any aisle seats near the emergency exits? Now, could you reserve a table for a party of 6 or 6 people? These two actually mean the same thing. A party here does not mean, wah, like a festivity, a party. A party in this case means a group, okay? A group of people. So a party of 6 means the same thing as 6 people, okay? So could you reserve a table for a party of 6 this Saturday at 7 o'clock under Clyde? Now, what is under here? Under, that's my last name, Jennifer Clyde. And if I want to make a reservation, I would say, could you make a reservation? Could I book a table under Clyde? Clyde 이름으로 예약을 하고 싶다라고 하실 때 I would like to reserve a seat, a table under so-and-so 하시면 돼요. All right, making reservations. Do you have any tables by the window, far from the entrance, close to the bar, or even in the corner? Pick your favorite spot and ask them if they do have any availabilities. Making appointments. All right, you can say, could you put me down for 2 o'clock this Wednesday? You're making an appointment, so in most cases you are calling the doctor's office, the dentist's, perhaps your lawyer, your accountant. And when you say, put me down for a certain time, it means, could you write my name down on the list for that time? Okay? To put someone down means to humiliate someone. But when you say, put me down for a certain time, it means I would like to make an appointment or reserve something at that time. All right, moving on. Could you arrange something for me with Professor Park anytime soon? And then let's take a look at, all right, this one. Talking about a good time for you. You can agree by saying Friday at 7 works for me, meaning, oh, that's good. It's okay with me. I'm good for Thursday at 5, also another way of saying, yes, I'm available. I'm open from 2 to 3 o'clock on Wednesday. I'm open meaning I have time from 2 to 3 o'clock. 2시부터 3시까지 괜찮습니다. 저 시간 돼요 라는 이야기예요. Okay, let's take a look at one more. I can definitely make room for you at 6 o'clock. 방을 만들다? No, basically means I could make time for you. 시간을 낼 수 있습니다 라는 표현 이렇게 하시면 돼요. One more time. I can definitely make room for you at 6 o'clock. Okay, I'll list some more expressions up on our homepage as well, so please do check it out. And let's now move on, everyone. Now it's time for a breather. As always, in every one of our lessons, it's time for an idiom. Today's idiom is to go back on one's promise or to go back on one's word. You have my word means what? You have my promise. You could trust me. 내 말 믿어도 돼 라는 말인데요. To go back on one's promise or to go back on one's word. Try to figure out what it means. Here is a sentence. He always goes back on his promises. That's why no one buys what he says. It's kind of tricky. Now, he always goes back on his promises or words means he always breaks his promises. He does not keep his word. And in the second sentence, that's why no one buys what he says. Buy in this case doesn't mean purchase. It means to believe. 믿다라는 뜻이에요. 맨날 약속을 어기니까 그 사람 말은 아무도 믿지 않는다라는 말 되겠죠. Definition, 약속을 어기다, 약속을 지키지 않는다예요. To break a promise that one has made. Here is one more sample and sentence. I hate to go back on my word, but I'm afraid I can't lend you the money. 돈을 빌려주기로 했으나 미안해, 내가 약속을 못 지키게 됐어라는 말 이렇게 하시면 돼요. Okay, but everyone, do keep your promises.
What are some common appointments you make these days? Talk about the last appointment or reservation you made. Where were you going Or what did you want to do? Describe it in detail.
These days, I make a lot of appointments. The recent appointments I made was first with my family, and second with my friend. The first appointment I made with my family was to go to a restaurant with another family we know, and I reserved it in advance for 6 people. And we went to a Chinese restaurant, and the food was really good. And the second appointment I made was with a friend to go to an exhibition. The exhibition was on Tim Burton, and it was very interesting since he made a lot of movies, so it was really fun to look around with my friend. And after that, I went to have dinner with my friend, and that was the whole schedule of my appointment for the day. So these days, I make a lot of appointments with my friends to have lunch and dinner, and seldomly, I also make appointments with my family to have dinner.
And that was our actual interview for the day. Thank you so much. 이수영님, 감사합니다. She talked about a time she went to Tim Burton's exhibition with a friend and something else as well. Let's check out what she said. She said, I reserved it in advance for 6 people. We went to a Chinese restaurant and the food was really good. So it's very important. She did add a lot of detail, but here, I reserved it in advance. This part is good, but she was talking about making reservations, so it would have been better if she said, I made reservations in advance. That would have been perfect. The second appointment I made was with a friend to go to an exhibition. It would have been slightly better if she said, the second plan I made, 친구와의 선약 약속이니까 plan이 조금 더 자연스럽게 들릴 수 있었겠죠. The second appointment I made was with who? With a friend to do what? To go to an exhibition. 2 oopsies. The reason appointments I made was first with my family and second with my friend. Sounds awkward. You should say, I made appointments with my family and also with my friend. Because you are not talking about the reasons, you made appointments with A and B. Let's check out one more. The reason I made appointments with my family and friend was to, and then verb. 자, 이유를 설명할 땐 이 패턴 그대로 쓰시면 돼요. You're talking about the reason. Remember this pattern. Another one. These days, I make a lot of appointments with my friends to have lunch and dinner, and seldomly, I also make appointments with my family to have dinner. Now, what does seldomly mean? Seldom itself, without the ly, is an adverb. It means to do something rarely. You don't do it often. So, you should say seldom. Although seldomly is used as an adverb as well, it is not necessary to add the ly. So, you should say, these days I make a lot of appointments with my friends to have lunch and dinner. 하지만 반대에 대해서 이야기를 하고 있죠. 가족과는 그렇게 자주 만나지 않는다. So you should say, but, however, I seldom make appointments with my family to have dinner. All right, everyone? So please do keep that in mind. Seldom itself is an adverb. You do not have to add the ly. Well, that is it. Wonderful job. So for those of you that are slightly confused about seldom and seldomly, I'm not saying that seldomly is incorrect because seldomly actually started to become widely used after seldom. But I'm saying try not to add the ly because seldom is good enough on its own. I can tell you, I seldom break promises. I seldom cancel reservations, okay? Which means you don't do it very often. All right, that is a wrap for today, but I do want to remind you that you can always come to our homepage, come to ebse.co.kr and look for 제니퍼의Actual speaking. Come by, check out the dictations to the actual talk. We'll also have the dictation to the actual interview as well, so please do post up your thoughts, comments, feedback, opinion, anything. You're more than welcome to come by. Next time, I'll be joining you with another interesting topic, the very opposite of what we talked about today. We talked about making reservations and appointments today. Next time, we'll talk about breaking or canceling reservations or appointments. Okay? Well, job well done today, everyone. That is all for it, and I'll catch you again next time. Until then, take care and bye for now.